I want to walk you through 5 camera setting mistakes that I see happen all the time. What's up? My name is Cameron and I run one of the leading headshot and creative branding photography studios in Los Angeles. I've worked with thousands of clients and trained tons of photographers, and I can tell you these little mistakes show up way more often than you might think. All right, the first one, and probably the most common, is shooting too wide open. I know everybody loves their soft, creamy background with shallow depth of field, the f1.2s, the 1.4, 1.8. It looks amazing when it lands. But the truth is, it can be really unforgiving. There's always these photographers that chime into the comments, and I don't know if they're joking or if they're serious. Maybe it's a mix of both, but they're like, no way, I bought a 1.2 lens. I'm always going to be shooting at 1.2 because I want my money's worth with the lens. In my total opinion, I think they're completely missing the point of what a wide aperture and a fast lens is intended to do. When you shoot that wide open all the time, even a slight shift forward or backwards and boom, your subject's eye is soft. Or worse, their nose is sharp and the eye is out. And that really sucks if that's your best shot that you got. This is especially true in portrait work. I see headshots all the time that are like super shallow to where one eye is sharp and one eye is soft. And maybe that's an artistic choice, which is totally cool. It can really be impactful, but if it's not an artistic choice and you got the wrong eye sharp and the wrong eye soft, it kind of throws off the balance of the entire headshot. Now, I will say, because I think people are going to chime in the comments, that eye tracking nowadays, especially on mirrorless cameras, lands pretty much all the time. It's really, really impressive. But for me, even if I'm shooting on a super fast lens, I'll often stop down to f4 or 5.6 for headshots in this studio. It still gives me a really nice depth without risking missed focus or overly narrow planes. I also happen to like some texture in my backgrounds, honestly. I think it grounds my subjects in a location and creates way more dimensionality than them just floating on top of a bokeh soft backdrop. But I digress, that's just my humble opinion. Let me reiterate, wide open isn't wrong, it's just not always right. Does that make sense? Mistake number 2 is using the wrong focus mode. A lot of newer beginning photographers just leave it on single shot focus. It's one shot on Canon and AFS on Sony or Nikon, and then they just sort of forget about it. The problem with that is that mode locks focus once, and if your subject shifts even a little bit, you are pretty much square out of luck and your sharpness goes right out the window. So if you're new at this whole photography thing and you can't seem to lock in sharp focus, then that might be part of your problem. You're essentially grabbing focus on something, and then if you lean or move or twist a little bit, it might move out of focus. Especially if you're doing what mistake number 1 was and shooting wide open, where that plane of focus is exceptionally thin. I have to say, with my DSLR, I became pretty darn good at single point focus, even when shooting moving subjects. Like, they were always pretty much tack sharp. But with mirrorless cameras these days, I shoot almost everything in continuous focus with the beautiful eye tracking because it makes my life so much better. AI servo, AFC, whatever your system calls it. You combine that and eye tracking and just it's amazing. Number 3, auto white balance when shooting indoors or in a studio environment like this. Auto white balance on your camera can be super unpredictable in artificial or mixed lighting scenarios. It's great for weddings or events where you're moving around, maybe from indoor to outdoor, or the light may be changing or shifting on you and you don't have time to dial it in. But in a studio like this one, where I'm shooting predominantly flash, that's a hard pass. One shot would end up being warm, the next would be green, then it swings back again, and it's literally gonna change with your subject's clothing or the background color, or even just like the ambient light in your space. And if you're editing full sessions like I am and delivering shots that need to be consistent across the board, trust me, you don't want it. That's a pretty big nightmare. Instead, I say to make sure that you're shooting in Kelvin. I always dial in a consistent white balance depending on the light I'm working with. Natural light or strobes are typically around daylight color temperature, around 5,600 degrees Kelvin. You can of course use a gray card if you like, something like an X-Rite color checker. Just have your model hold it for that first shot, and then you can adjust for a custom white balance either in your camera itself Or click for white balance in Lightroom or Capture One or whatever you're using. Number 4, only exposing for your subject's face or the midtones without watching your highlights. On sunny days, or if there's a bright background light, that would blow out the skies, the hair lights, even parts of the skin, and look not that great. Always protect your highlights. If you're shooting in a really contrasty situation, it's not even a bad idea to slightly underexpose so that you can recover those shadows later without killing the file. RAW files give you that room to bring back a whole lot without muddying the photo up. And number 5, shooting in JPEG only. A lot of people say that pros only shoot RAW, and that's probably mostly true. No hate, it's not always the case, but mostly. I want you to know that I get it though. JPEGs are smaller file sizes, they're easier to transfer. If you're shooting kids' sports or projects that need a quick turnaround time, JPEGs might be a great option, but you are giving the camera control over things like contrast, saturation, sharpness, basically everything. It's sort of a finished file that's baked in and you're stuck with it. RAW files are heavier, yeah, but you get so much more flexibility. You can recover detail in the highlights and the shadows, you can correct bad white balance if you didn't adhere to that other mistake I talked about, and you can build a look from a clean, neutral base. And if you don't like it, just trash it and start all over again. Because it's literally just raw data captured by the camera's sensor, which in turn gives you that control back in post. And I'd say even if you're not editing heavily, RAW is a better starting point pretty much 100% of the time. So that's it. 5 small camera setting mistakes that can make your photos look a little less professional than they should. Here's the recap. Don't shoot wide open all the time unless you really need to. Make sure you're using continuous autofocus and eye tracking if you're working with a moving subject. Lock in your white balance manually, especially if you're shooting with flash or in a studio environment. Protect your highlights, not just your midtones. And for the love of all things photography, please shoot RAW. Or at least shoot both JPEG and RAW so that you have the option if the JPEG fails you. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more photography. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more photography chats just like this one. And if you want to check out how I rock a cinematic edit from total scratch, along with adjusting presets to work with your images, you're going to want to check this one out. All right, y'all. See you in the next one.